So, Richard, one of the things that you mentioned was multiple networks, a heterogeneous networking environment in Stratford. Could you say a little bit about how you manage that in terms of getting multiple players on board? Because you'd like to have multiple backbones maybe to test things against, but they also may see that as competitive unless they're somehow monetized.
Yes, great question. You raised a big issue. That's real world. Everybody's competing for their own space, or they're worried about their turf and how it's going to take away because you're giving something up. That was the difficult part of the whole process, in that you had different owners for the different networks, and all of them had their own agenda, and it wasn't consistent with what we were doing necessarily. So we had to have a lot of times working in meetings, trying to have people on your side, sway those people, like Hydro. We were a second-class citizen to Hydro because they paid for it, they own it, and if it goes down or there's a problem or we break it, it's not us. If we break it, it's not our problem, it's their problem. And so those were real issues, as well as the owner of the networks. And then we even you have the additional complication as you expand the ecosystem to include all the different participants, like the business people, the emergency services. It was quite interesting, and that's why I indicated that it's excellent that you're bringing the social science aspect to what you're trying to do from the beginning, because I think that's very, very important, and you're going to overcome a lot of the hurdles that you'll face down the road by getting consensus or buy-in and communication early in the game. So it's very important, and we're a technology company. What do we know about dealing with committees? And generally when you're dealing with, you have the advantage in that your proposal here is you have a lot of ownership over it. You can make a lot of decisions. We were dealing with a lot of people that were elected politicians. So that added a whole new issue when it came to the problem that you discussed. But generally, communication, knowing about it ahead of time, bringing in aspects of all the social sciences and people, you're off to a great start. The last thing you can do is just think that this is just a technology solution that we're looking for. But great question, and I'll ask you in a couple of years how you dealt with it, and hopefully when we're going out for coffee, we can have some great stories.
Any other questions?
Question for Dave. For the drivers, the over-the-road drivers, especially when you have even just a highway autopilot, how do you reduce the monotony for them? Because before, they were at least trying to keep the rig on the road, and now they're just staring at the road because driver distraction laws say that you can't have them watch videos, you can't have them typing on anything. So now they're literally just staying and not allowed to go to sleep. I mean, that's one of the things that, I talked about, but how do you get new studies from the medical side to say, what do you need to do to keep people engaged and monitor their eye movement? Because if I'm staring off in space daydreaming, any camera is going to think that I'm looking at the road when really it's the most dangerous, right?
Right, yeah, I think you bring up a great point is, what else can they do? Certainly the opportunity for doing some other kind of value-added activity would be good, but if you got to stare at the road, it's even worse if you're not doing anything and staring at the road. And I think we're a ways from the opportunity is there. We have to figure out what the drivers are going to do in that particular setting.
Do you think the current driver distraction regulations allow for the driver to do something else, or do you think we need to change something?
I don't know it that well, but I think it would not allow that in the current environment. So that's why I think the opportunities in the logistics and the supply chain industry are much more internal to facilities like yard work at a plant or yard work at a truck, where you're in an entirely controlled environment until we learn how the system works a lot more than the long haul, or at least at driver assist, maintain it at driver assist level where the driver still has to be involved.
Yes, sir. For Wagner, when you were looking at technology, so you have Wi-Fi, cellular, did you also take a look at low-power radio, more on different connectivity in that range? It's packet data, but for other forms of parking data?
We did, yes. And quite frankly, for us, as long as there's packets, we can manage it and prioritize them, because the way our system works is we have a cloud-based platform that puts all those packets through a tunnel. And then we manage it. So we manage both sides of it. Satellite, and we see satellite being adopted in this solution, and for urban areas as much so as well. For us, as long as there's packets and there's a management of packets, and that's what we learned in our DSRC exercise. When I gave it to the guys, I said, figure it out. Here's pizza, go and figure it out. They came back and they said, there's packets. And once there's packets and we can track it and we can do what we want and put them through our tunnel, the coders can go to school and figure that out. But yes, and a lot of them is what is commercially deployable, what's out there, what's available. They're not technical challenges as much as they are business and implementation issues that we have to incorporate into our ecosystem. Good question.
Well, let's thank our panel again for their time.